So what we are talking about today is the DocumentsCorePack Connector for Power Automate and Power Apps, right? Mainly what we're talking about here is the new actions and options available in version 2 that was released in November of last year. So it's been out for a little bit, but we decided that we need to just kind of go over a couple of new highlights here. For those of y'all that are not familiar with it, let's talk a little bit about it. The DocumentsCorePack Connector, what is it? So basically what it allows you to do is access all the DocumentsCorePack features in Power Apps and Power Automate, okay? What that allows you to do is basically you have the 25 plus actions, allows you to create the documents, send those things by email, print, save to SharePoint, run a one-click action, et cetera, all within your flow, okay? With that, you have the expanded functionality with the other connectors that are available to you in Flow. As you can see here on the side, you can use the SharePoint connector, Dropbox, email, print, etc. You can do all this kind of stuff. So it really opens up an entire kind of new world to the things that you can do with DocumentsCorePack and stuff you can kind of integrate it with. All right, it gives you the full automation suite with Microsoft with Flow. Okay. So you can totally automate things, and you can use these document generation piece in Canvas apps, right? And we'll kind of go over that a little bit later. Some of the benefit is, of course, it reduces your user workload, right? They're not having to click through a dialogue or go through anything, right? You just can kind of decide and how you're going to do the process, your creation of the document, post-processing, all that good kind of stuff. And with that, basically what we call that is the standardization of documents, right? So you know exactly when you run this flow, you're going to get the same kind of output every time. There's no kind of error that you can kind of run into, somebody maybe clicking something they're not supposed to or something along those lines. So highly recommended, of course. Let's see here. So let's talk a little bit about some of the new actions that are in version 2. These are the main 3 here. Number 1 is e-signature capability. It gives you the ability to automate e-signature collection via Flow. All right. We have support for the major 3 e-signing companies here: DocuSign, Adobe Sign, and SureSign. And it increases security of the signature collection process. And what we mean by that is that, we do know that a lot of these e-signing companies do have their own connector inside of Flow. But the benefit of using our connector is that the entire process is contained within Dataverse, right? So if I kick off an e-signature process, right, it's then tied in Dataverse to that particular record. You can follow along with it, and everything is just put in there. So it's all tied kind of together, tied back, and you kind of want that for kind of visibility, right? So you can actually see kind of what's going on. So that's the benefit of that. The next piece would be to create SharePoint folders, and that's a little bit misleading. Basically, it creates new folders on the Dataverse records for SharePoint. When you're setting up things, you can set up like a new folder structure, etc. It aligns with the Dynamics 365 SharePoint integration, so you can just tell it what folders you want. It's actually going to put it in that SharePoint location for that particular record, right? And basically, that improves your management and searchability of files, right? So it makes everything pretty easy. Last but not least is the run one-click action, right? And what this allows you to do is to execute one-click actions inside of Power Automate, okay? And this allows you to avoid complex logic and flows. It's like, for example, conditional templates, multi-part documents, things of that nature. And you're able to reuse a lot of your existing one-click actions in flows. There are some limitations that we do cover in our documentation on what you can do. So if this is a little bit confusing to you on what a one-click action is, or you've never heard of it before, or you haven't used it, just going to kind of go over it real quick because it's kind of important so that you can understand the whole process, right? And basically what a one-click action is it basically allows you to pre-configure your document process, right? Of course, the first step is your document generation. You're telling it what kind of documents should be generated. You can do like template selection in there, conditional template selection, multi-part, a whole bunch of different stuff. And you can pick like your output format. So an example of that would be you want to create an invoice that's going to be generated as a PDF. The next piece to it is the document processing and delivering. So how should the document be processed? Do you want to save to SharePoint? Do I want to send it out for an e-signature, etc.? And of course, the example is save to SharePoint and send by email. All that combined in one click through our designer, through our one-click action designer, which is really simple to use. You can set something up like, process an invoice. You're going to create a PDF, send it by email, and save to SharePoint just with a click. So that's what that does. So what we want to do today in our live demo, what we're going to show is basically these 3 new features, right? And I'm going to go over those in a little bit of detail so you can kind of set them up yourself. It's the e-signing automation, how that works, the one-click actions, and creating SharePoint folders, right? So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to switch over here now quickly to our demo system, right? So in our particular scenario, what we're doing today is, so we have a contact here that we're going to hire, right? Usually what we do, we send out a sort of a package to new hires, a couple of things that are in that, just some information that they need to fill out. They need to agree to a background check, some other information, direct deposit, things of that nature. And because we're a multinational company, right, we have to set it up to where, like, for example, like users in the US will get the relative documents from the US, right? So like they're W-4s, or that's what we call them over here. That's like tax documents and things like that. So basically the way that we've been having it been done is we do this whole like create document piece, right? We have an employee onboarding package that we do, right? So the employee onboarding package it's a multi-part document, right? It consists of a quick contact sheet, background check, new hire form, and a W-4 because this person is living in the United States. From there, you just click on the document options, right? And you can pick and choose what you want to do with it, right? But we want to simplify this process. We want to bring it all into flow so that, when we give this person a job title, it automatically sends this stuff out, right? So let me show you kind of what it looks like, the configuration of that. Come on over here into my settings here, DocumentsCorePack one-click actions, right? So I'll just select the contact here. And this is the one-click action that I basically ran, the onboarding DocuSign. For me, right, this is not something that I'm going to want the users to use anymore, but I want the one-click action to stick around. So I'm going to hide it from the dialog. The next thing I'm going to do here is just kind of show you how this is. So basically, I have I've done a multi-part document here, inserted the different templates that I'm using, right? And the last piece here, I'm using our conditional template selection here. So if they live in the country of the United States, right, it's going to add that to it. So you can see how easy this is to do, right? It's just simple. Like if I want to add another template, I totally could. You just kind of fill this information out. Now you got to kind of imagine if you're doing this in Flow, you got to think about it this way. If I'm going to do this in Flow, right, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 documents that I'm going to add, right? I need to concatenate these all into one thing. So I'm looking at creating this document, and concatenating them together, creating this document, adding it to that, creating maybe, excuse me, adding this document. So I need a conditional selection. And if it's true, right, I'm going to add that to that. So we're looking at about 7 steps that you're going to add to your flow. Well, as you're going to see, once we get over to our flow here, that setting this up in here takes a little bit of time. And then basically I just call this one-click action, and it's going to do that for me in my flow, right? So let's go over to our flow and take a look at that. So I got my flow here, the employee onboarding package. All right. So I'm going to edit this real quick and just kind of go through it with you. So I've got here my trigger basically is when the contact is hired and a job title is given. That's my trigger. Basically what I want to do is create that employee onboarding package. So first thing I need to do is give it an environment. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this. I'm just saying it now because in March, this is going to change. This is going to go away. It's just going to be to the environment that you're actually creating this flow in, right? But right now, yeah, you have to select a target environment that you want this in. Give it the entity ID, which is just the contact UID from the record that we've triggered, that's been triggered the flow. And then give it a one-click action, right? The one-click action that I just showed you. And this is really easy to do. I don't have to do anything. I just click it and then pick from my list of one-click actions. They're nice and ordered here, right? So you know which one-click action goes with which particular entity, right? So I'll just pick the one, my one-click action that I'm running. That's all you have to do. That's it. We're done. So it's configuring the one-click action in the DocumentsCorePack settings and then basically calling the one-click action from the flow. So now I've reduced my flow down from 7 or 8 different steps that I would have to add and keep scrolling and everything like that to just basically one step. A lot easier to manage with our tool as well. You know, so I could change up this one-click action and then it'll just roll. It'll just basically call that. I don't have to change my flow every time, right? So that is basically the creating the onboard package for basically using the one-click actions, right? The next step is, because this is a document that I need to capture signature on, that I need to capture an e-signature on, I'm going to actually send this over to Adobe Sign, right? So this is our action here for setting up the e-signature, right? So a couple of things. Again, I need the entity ID. It's just basically the contact. Schema name for it, I have to give it. This is for our contact again. The document job ID is basically calling back to this particular action where I created the document. What we call, when we create a document via flow, this action creates what we call a document job, and that references the created document, right? So I can just call this document job ID from this particular action. Last but not least, I need to give it a signing provider. Here in this particular case, I'm using Adobe Sign, but again, SureSign, DocuSign are also available to you. Now this is where I set up the particular signees, right? So I'm going to give the signee full name from the particular road that I'm using, grab the email address, whether or not I want to do in-person signing or not. So in this case, I don't. I'm going to send an email out, but if you're doing an in-person signing process, you can totally do that here. Give the email a subject, give it a nice message. I don't think Adobe supports this, but you can do that. Then I have a couple of things that are just for DocuSign, right? Give a telephone number, host name, signee host name, right? So that's for one signee. If I have multiple signees, right? So if I had like 3 or 4, I can just add a new signee, right? So same process, right? Just give it the signee's email address, the name, email address, etc. And it goes on and on. You can keep adding those to it, right? So relatively simple to do and set up. Last but not least, usually when we hire a new employee, right, we want to set up a folder on SharePoint under that contact's name for HR to store all their official forms in, and then for accounting to store all their pay stubs in, and accounting likes to break it up into like years, right? So I want to go ahead and set up that initial year. So that's really easy to do. Again, always, I'm kind of repeating myself here, but you give the GUID of the contact record that we're using, the schema, which is, it's a contact, right? And then the folder name. And basically what this then does, oh, thank you, Flo, I appreciate that. What this then does is kind of this is the how you're going to set this up, right? So I want the official form folder for HR, right? I follow that by a semicolon, letting them know that, hey, I want another folder created. So I'm going to create a folder called pay stubs. And in that folder, pay stubs, I have a subfolder called 2023. And this can go on and on and on. You can create as many as you want off the rip. All right. And that's pretty much how that flow is then handled, right? So let's go ahead and kick this off. So I'll come back into here. And let's see. We're going to hire Abraham as our new lead tester, right? I'll go ahead and save that. That should trigger my flow. All right, so we'll go ahead and wait for it to start running. Usually takes it a brief second to trigger. I hope I saved it. Oh yeah, ignore and save. There we go. Let's wait for it. There we go. So our flow is running in the background now with, you know, all that your user had to do was just enter in that job title, you know. So what it's basically going to go through, it's going to go through and use that one-click action to create that package. And it's going to take that package and send it off to Adobe Sign to be signed. Last but not least, create those SharePoint folders for me. So this just takes a brief moment. We'll go ahead and let this run. And let me come over here. I'm going to grab my email and kind of wait for this this signing process to kind of come through. So as we wait, this usually takes, you know, probably, you know, a couple minutes to run. It's usually done pretty quick. So we'll give it probably one more refresh, and there we go. So I've got my email here for you know, I've got my for my employee onboarding package. So I'm going to review and sign that. Let me go ahead and bring this over. Signing process. I mean, we've all done this by now. Let's see. So I'll go ahead and do my first signature here. Right. I should read that. Everyone should read that. Always read a contract. And then, you know, click that. Click it to sign it. That shoots it back into Dynamics for me. Everything's captured. Everything's tied to that record. So let's go over to the record. The flow is pretty much done. So let me go ahead and go back over here. Let's see what we got. So the first thing I want to do, just kind of show you the documents here, the SharePoint locations, right? I've got my folder structure already set up for this particular user. I've got my official forms, got my pay stubs, and then underneath pay stubs, I've got the 2023 folder. It was all created by that flow. So created just now. And let's cruise back here. We should have down here. Let me refresh this timeline. It should kick back. So it kicked back here the signed contract and everything like that right to the record. This is what we're talking about, keeping everything inside Dynamics, right? You don't have to take stuff and, you know, the e-signature process and go and grab it and upload it to Dynamics. This is all done within the context of Dataverse, right? So let me just go ahead and open this up so you can kind of see what it looks like. So here we go. I don't want the preview. I want to see I want to download it. So it looks, so you guys can actually see it, because that looks like a little small window. So I've got my first page. This is my employee quick contact, signatures here. That's my first template that I was done. Second template is that consent to background and reference check. There we go. I've got my signature here. The employee record sheet, which the employee can then print and fill out, needs to bring that in for the first day of work, right? And then last but not least, oh wait, I've got another document or template that I've added, which is direct deposit form, which they need to fill that out. And then lastly, the W-4, which needs to be filled out and brought in with them. So they have all that. We've got that, everything all put together and everything like that in that nice packet form. So that being said, let me come back over here. Let's talk a little bit about the roadmap, some of the things that are coming up. So version 3 is coming out. As I already mentioned, choosing the environment is going to go away. You know, you won't have to do that step anymore. But the main thing is one of the things is what we're doing is what we're calling, it's a combined action. So if you're kind of familiar, it looked like a lot of people have kind of used Flow from the survey, or been using it and been using the DocumentsCorePack Connector. What this is going to do is it's going to alleviate a couple steps for you, because that's what we're all about. You're going to be able to actually create your document and then do the processing of the document in a single action. So no more of, you know, creating the document and then grabbing the document and doing the processing steps with it. You'll be able to, send it as attach it to an email, send it, etc. All that kind of stuff in one action. The other thing that we're working towards is, as always, improved documentation and inline help inside the flow, right? And now, what I want to talk about here is Canvas apps. Okay, Canvas apps. What this allows you to do, of course, you can have these in flow. You can call your flows inside of your Canvas apps. So it allows you to add that document capability to your Canvas apps, and it has all 25 connectors basically in there. So I say 20 plus. This also counts 25 plus. So you're able to generate the document and return it to the app for visualization and processing. So as I said, you can do this. You can call your flows and everything like that in your Canvas app, or you can actually talk to the API directly, right? This little snippet of code down here just basically shows you here. You can call DocumentsCorePack create document job once you have the DocumentsCorePack connector connected in your Canvas app, right? So you can do your whole template selection there. You can select what record or row you're using this on, what it's going to be, if it's going to be sent for an e-signature, if you're going to save it to SharePoint, all that good stuff. You can do that all. This is a little app that we kind of show usually in demos. Just want to go over it real quick. It has your template selection here that you can grab it, send it for an e-signature, etc. You'll generate the quote, send it off for an e-signature, lets you know your document's been generated, lets you view your document, and lets you do in-person signing right there. So everything right there from a Canvas app. If you've ever been to one of our events that we do, or one of the conferences or something like that, we had this on our phone and basically show it to you on the phone, right? So you can actually sign the whole thing, and we collect all your data and use that against you because you signed it, you've e-signed it. Not really, but it's a really cool example of this app. So I really like it. So one thing that I do have to say is that, if you're new, all this is available to you in a free trial, right? The best part is there's no functional limitation. So everything you've seen today, you can do right out of the gate. The trial is also fully supported. So, you have access to our support team, which the people that have been with us a while, they'll let you know that our support is really, really good. And it only takes you about 30 minutes to get started. You either go to our website and get started from there, or the things are available. All our apps are available on, or all our add-ons are available on AppSource, right? So there we go.